My name is Tony Paghetti, and after 30 years in the fire service, I've retired and continued the work as a peer support coordinator here in the Santa Barbara County. And one of the things that I've been able to do through into my retirement is to be part of this Public Safety Peer Support Association that started about 6 years ago. And there's a couple of things in my life that have really changed my outlook on the fire service, first responders, behavioral health, peer support, and two of those things are here on this Zoom. So Scott Ross is probably the biggest mentor I've ever had, and the second was going to the PSPSA conference. The first one, I think it was 2016. Can't remember the year. Was it 16? And I didn't even know how to spell peer back then. And I walked away with another firefighter from Santa Barbara County, and we shook hands at the end of that conference and said, "We're bringing this to our county." And here we are. And the one thing that the board of the PSPSA Association wanted to do was kind of do some different outreach and kind of expand the role of what we can provide to our members. And this is one of those. And we want to start this monthly coffee with your peers and bring in some guest speakers that have gone through some incidents that have required peer teams to be deployed either locally or nationally. And so I'm super stoked. This is pretty cool. We have our conference next month and actually next week. And I'm excited to talk about what we're doing here today and then what we're going to do in the future. So we're going to introduce Shawn from Miami in a few minutes. But the first thing I want to do is kind of ask Lorenzo to introduce himself as the president and kind of give us a few words of what his expectations of what we do here. So Lorenzo?
Yes, good morning, and thank you for attending. As Tony mentioned, this is a work in progress, something that we've been talking about for a couple of years. And then, because of the pandemic and we had to cancel our conference last year, we really put in the work. So thank you, Tony, Robert Mann, for kind of spearheading this and, getting the board focused. So on behalf of Anna, Scott, Nancy, John, Joni, the rest of the board, Dave, we just want to say thank you for all the work that you have done. For everybody that's on the call, thank you for attending this first one. So I'm really looking forward to hearing Shawn talk and looking forward to this coffee with peers. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Lorenzo. Okay, so without further ado, let's get to the meat of the meeting. So I'd like to introduce Shawn Capana. Shawn is a captain with Miami-Dade. And one of the reasons I wanted to start here was I was honored to be deployed from Santa Barbara, California to Miami for the Champlain Towers collapse as a peer support, part of a peer support team. There was 12 of us that deployed. We were there for about a week. And then we relieved the team that was there, and then we were relieved by another team that was also led by Scott Ross, who's on the call. So he may have some input at the end with some comments about what happened after we left. But the one thing I got the first thing we did is we got in there late one night. The next morning we showed up, and there was this what we called the war room. And it looked just like you would see on TV. There was papers everywhere. The walls were plastered. There'd been people there that were up all night, been there a week. And even though we were from California, the reception we got from people from Florida was just amazing. And I never felt like we weren't welcome. And it really opened up a lot of respect for what we're all doing. And so I thought, what a great place to start with our coffee with your peers by inviting Shawn from Miami to kind of explain, what that looked like and what it meant to them. And then what I'd like to do is just kind of put that back on Shawn and tell her what that meant to us. It's an honor for us to be there and an honor for us to be part of something that big. And so it's kind of a two-way thing here. So I'm going to let Shawn do her introduction, but just kind of what I have was she sent me a bio, and she's been with the fire department for 23 years and started with the CISM and peer support team in 2015, and has also gotten into the therapy dog world about 5 years ago using some rescue greyhounds. I got to meet Charlie, and I can't remember that Charlie's counterpart's name.
Nauvoo, Nauvoo. It's a little unique.
Nauvoo. And she's really just taken this whole idea and really championed it across across her region. So we spoke yesterday, and she had just come back from Jacksonville talking about the same thing. So sharing the story. So welcome, Shawn. Thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to hearing what you have to share.
Thank you. And I just want to extend a thank you for everybody that had come out there to help us with Surfside. I'm going to talk a little bit about why I got the team started. So I'm a captain with Miami-Dade Fire. I apologize for the baseball cap. I explained I was going through a pretty dramatic hairstyle change, so I'm going to have a few months of bad hair days. So basically, I'm going to share some personal things, and that'll explain why I'm here today. I'm the Peer Support Response Canine Coordinator. And basically how it all started is in 2014 and 2015, I lost 6 coworkers that I cared very much about. I say they're coworkers, so they were with me on the fire department, but really they were friends and family. At the same time, I started becoming aware my own process was starting to happen. In 2015, I got my diagnosis, complex PTSD with dissociative disorder, no other symptoms, and I was in talk therapy for about a year. At that time, the process became unhealthy for me. I tried going to another therapist, but I had honestly lost trust in the process, and I left therapy. The problem was symptomology. I had anxiety attacks so bad I would literally just faint out in public. And I started isolating. The suicide ideation I had at the time those were the thoughts that actually gave me relief. So I knew I was in trouble, and I had no support system. Being an adoptee, my mom died 19 years ago. So no family, not many friends. And what I had were my dogs. I never stopped working. When you're going through that on the fire department, the structure of your shift actually becomes pretty helpful. It's off duty, that we tend to struggle more when we don't have to be a specific location at any time. And that's what was going on with me. So I never left shift, fake it till I make it. I had been a captain, on a fire truck for, 10 years by that time. And I was pretty much on autopilot. So I pulled it off, but not very present. And one day I ran a call. It was a domestic violence case, and I had called an ambulance out for the woman. As I was writing her medications down for the report, a dog with a PTSD service vest came running out from her bedroom and sat on her lap. And I had to ask her, I said, what is that? How do you get one? Is that your dog? So here I was, the rescuer, talking to a patient, hoping my crew didn't realize why I was asking her so many questions, about her service dog. But she gave me good information, and I went to my neurologist who prescribed my medications and talked to her about it. And because of my lack of support system, she said, absolutely, that's a good idea for you. Sorry, this is Nauvoo. He's young and curious. So Charlie and I went through a 6-month service dog training program. And a year later, I had only had 3 anxiety attacks that he actually stopped, no more fainting. And I was getting out in public and having good experiences. There was a time I felt I just couldn't relate to people anymore. And I was angry. I was really angry. It was better, I decided, if I just shut myself down and not expose myself to people. I knew it wasn't them, it was me. But when you have a dog next to you, it's amazing. People are they're fascinated by it. And so they would ask me a lot of questions with smiles, and they would come up to me and talk to me. And, plus the greyhound angle, people were fascinated with greyhounds at the time while they were still racing. Here in Florida, December of 2020, there's no more, greyhound racing, which is a good thing. So I realized I could start to have good experiences out in public again, thanks to Charlie. I realized it worked for me, while it's not a panacea, it did help me regain function in certain areas of my life. And I just knew that there were more people like me on my fire department going through it. Miami-Dade Fire Rescue had lost 31 to date people to suicide, both active and retired. 31. We're paying too high of a price. And since it had affected me so personally and my friends so personally, I just felt I just needed to bring the idea to somebody. So I had joined the peer support team the year before. That was another healing thing for me, to be able to be around that and to help other people who were going through it in whatever way I could. So I brought the idea to the leadership, and they directed me to do a 3-month pilot study with Charlie at my station. And, we had seen some pretty interesting things with my own crew. I had no idea at the time what the program was going to look like, but we started where we had permission and just followed the open doors from there. I got permission to bring Charlie with me into the fire department in many roles. So at the time, the fire department, the peer support team was going through, what we were doing was going around and training. We were doing what we call wet drills and teaching all the firefighters about PTSD. They were basically like battalion drills. The units would be out of service, and we'd, give them slide presentations. They liked it because, it's not like they were pulling hoses out in the 90-degree heat that we have here. So we did that. I took Charlie with me, and we got a lot of positive feedback. In 2017, we activated Charlie officially on the peer support team. So then he started coming with me to one-on-ones and group peer callouts. Again, positive feedback. The crews liked it. And I'll explain a little bit about the science behind how it works. Basically, when a human being changes an emotion, we produce pheromones. And like any other working dog, they smell the pheromone change, and they're expected to go to the person and do one of two things: either do a gaze directly into their eyes or present themselves to be pet. Because when a human does something called friendly petting, which is really this, okay, this isn't friendly petting. When we get our fingertips into their skin, our bodies start to release oxytocin. And they can smell in degrees, so they'll know when our anxiety levels or whatever, mood we're going through changes, and then they'll release and walk to somebody else or go back and lay down. So that's kind of how they work, in a group setting. I realized as I was going around with Charlie, a lot of my firefighters wanted to join the team as well. They said, hey, I have a dog and I think my dog would work out pretty well. How do I do what you do? So I got permission to grow a team, basically, off duty. I got permission to use the training center on weekends, and we kind of just went from there. So it started with Charlie and I, and we're up to about 10 handlers now. The first certification that we shoot for is Certified Registered Therapy Dog. There's not a lot of curriculum for the therapy dog certification other than basic obedience. So an issue that I had with trainers was, well, if you don't know what peer support is or diffusing is, how are you going to train me to use my dog in a diffusing or a peer support meeting? And yeah, that's the answer I got. So I decided to become a dog trainer myself and save us a lot of money. $100 an hour is a lot to spend on dog training. And I went to Animal Behavior College and got a certification 8 months later as a dog trainer. And I learned how to train service dogs. So the second certification that we go for is a crisis response canine. And that's basically teaches a therapy dog handler how to deploy. A crisis response canine has to be more resilient to a wider range of human emotions. Sorry, guys, come on. Not just anxiety. I'm surrounded by greyhounds. not just anxiety or depression, but anger, rage, people in despair. And when you think about Surfside, those people were going through the absolute worst tragedy they've ever experienced in their life. Plus, when you think about therapy dogs, you're thinking mostly about controlled environments. Schools, nursing homes, even fire stations is a pretty controlled environment. Surfside was an emergency scene full of debris, rebar, glass, generators running 24/7, lights, fire engines, a lot of noise. The intensity of the scene was, exactly that. It was pretty intense. So there's 3 parts to the program here at MDFR. The first part is the response canines like Charlie, and they work with their canine handlers, peer support members all. And they respond with their handler to whatever their handler is called to, whether it's a stress reaction for a one-on-one or whether, it's a group setting. It's the handler's own dog that they train, that they're responsible for, all the dog's care. The second part of the program is our station dog program. I wanted to do something more proactive with the dog that lined up with the research on them. And by having a dog in the station, basically they're there before and after each call, and they can diffuse a lot of things. I looked up military research, and, part of having a dog with the team, the results were, the guys just liked each other better. They started spending more time together. Instead of everybody going to their bunker, their dorm, they're actually playing with the dog or training with the dog together. There's a lighter mood in the station. Less sick time, less discipline, more effective, cohesive crews on the scene. So this was all good stuff. And when you think about cumulative trauma, that justifies having the canines in the station. So what I did was I worked with animal services here, and they would provide us with the canine for free, provide all the food, vet care, and all the equipment. And in return, the dog would become part of the crew and live at the station 24/7. Throughout all 3 shifts. The third part of the program is I am allowed now to train service dogs for firefighters with PTSD or any mental health service dog. And again, we can get the dog from animal services for free, and they get me as a free trainer. So we're now able to provide our own with free service dogs. And I'm currently training 3 at the moment. So that's a little bit about our program and how it got started. So I'll go right into our Surfside response. At 4:20 a.m. on June 24th, I got a call that the fire alarm office was requesting the peer support team for a building collapse at Surfside. And as I was trying to wake myself up, we know as peers we're called in after the calls so the crews can process what they've experienced, unless it's something pretty big or an extended incident. So I started to make some coffee. I tried to wake Charlie up. This guy can hit the snooze button 10 times more than me. It's really impressive. A greyhound, just so you know, will sleep 20 out of 24 hours if allowed. They are the fastest dog on the face of the earth, but they are called the 45-mile-an-hour couch potato for a reason. As you can see, mine like to hover around me here on the couch. There's no place else in the house they want to be. So I turned on the television, and sure enough, there was a line of yellow fire engines down Collins Avenue. So I grabbed Charlie, his go pack, and an extra uniform, and I headed down to Surfside. And I knew what I saw when I got there would change us forever. Peers were assigned, and this was the first large incident that a mental health was actually, inside the command structure. And that was amazing. So peers were assigned 12-hour shifts. It was better for our canine teams and our canines that they do 12-hour, 6-hour rotating shifts. So we had one team coming in from 8 to 12 and another from, 8 to 2 and the other one from 2 to 8 p.m. And that's how we did it. At first, it started out as 2 teams per day, but we quickly grew for as many teams as 6 to 8 teams per day. The reason why is our role was between the Family Reunification Center and operations at the pile. Within the first week, we were completely overwhelmed with canine requests, both at the Family Center and the pile. I got a call on day 3 from Commissioner Heyman, who was sitting next to one of my chiefs, requesting that I get more teams at the Family Center. At that point, I had already told her, I said, listen, I need to request another organization for crisis response canine teams to come in and handle the family center, because at the same time, we were getting Uber requests from the USAR crews to have a dog north and south of the pile for when they go on and off. The ME's tent and the homicide unit, they were both requesting dogs there 24/7. Yeah. So the commissioner, thank goodness she agreed. And then from then on there, literally those teams were there within an hour. I met them at the Family Reunification Center and they came over. And one of the reasons that I didn't refer to generic therapy dog teams was because of the intensity. And to give you an example, when some of our teams walked in to the family center, we didn't get 20 feet inside in the lobby. These people would just come up to us, grab us by the arm, and say, hey, come here, we need you over here. Some of them were pulled into rooms that we later found out the families were being given death notifications. That's why they were pulling the handlers into the rooms. For Charlie and I, we were pulled aside, taken to a man in distress. And the man just grabbed Charlie on both sides of his neck. And he said, Charlie, go tell those other dogs to find my wife. Just go tell them to find my wife, Charlie. And he continues to just, collapse on both knees right on top of the dog. And that's kind of what I'm referring to when I talk about, crisis response canines. They need to be able to handle that. So if a firefighter gets angry and pounds on a table, Charlie doesn't get scared and run away. He approaches cautiously, and the handler has to be on alert, But weeks 2 and 3, the mood started getting pretty somber. All of us were praying for miracles at that point. We had been there with each other a lot, and sometimes the words just diminished. There wasn't that much to say to each other at that point. But that's where the dogs really start to shine. We would get requests at that point saying, hey, can I take your dog for a walk? Hey, can I just spend time with your dog? It wasn't so much about us. I mean, a handler does have to know when to step in as a peer or when to just back up and let the canine do its work. And this was more about the canine doing its work. So normally we don't release our canines and just let them go to anybody. When we're talking about our brothers and sisters with that glazed over look in their eyes, and that zombie stare that we tend to do, we would just hand our dogs off to them, give them the treat bag, teach them how to do some tricks, and let them bring some smiles to everybody. We were shrouded, in darkness. No matter how bright and sunny it was outside, we just all knew what it was about. There was a lot of precautions at the scene we needed to take with the dogs. Like I said, broken glass, rebar, construction debris, especially when they brought the second tower down. And respiratory protection became an issue. If we had to have respirators on, what about our dogs? After the scene, I had everybody, take their dogs to the vet just to make sure they got a clean bill of health, or for what we would know at that time, and explain to the vet the environment that they were just in. But there was no respiratory protection that we had, so we had to start limiting the time that we were there with our canines directly at the pile. But just so you know, my division chief would come around every time, I guess the news sensationalized some of the victims' families. I remember my division chief coming to me and he said, hey, Shawn, they just found the 14-year-old girl. Make sure you got some teams there. So it was myself and Angelica Kenyon with her dog. And we were watching them, and we knew when they bowed their heads down and prayed, that's when they found her, So we just kind of waited for them, and normally this is our own USAR teams, They do know some of the dogs by name, but in that state, the body bag was really small, and she and I just braced each other, for when they came off the pile. And these guys, still in their uniform, full of what they were just digging through with their equipment still in their hand, literally would kind of just drop to a knee, look up at us and say, can I pet your dog? They didn't even remember it was the same Charlie they had always known for, the past few years. So Surfside had an impact on us. the work of the brave men and women of the USAR teams, no one can hold a candle to. You know, they were the ones that did that work. We were just there to support them, you know, and they were amazing. They weren't going to quit until it was over, until every last victim was found. So we were there to support them the whole time. A lot of people, and this is hard to say, but because of that, they got to see firsthand the value that the canines can do for people in peer support. I've been asked to speak at a few, like you said, Jacksonville, here with you guys today, and thank you again. And while I'm not glad that something like that fell onto us in our own backyard, amazing people like yourselves came to help us out, and the value of what we've been trying to do here for a number of years was finally seen, if that's okay for me to say. So 10 MDFR peer support canine teams, 2 from Broward County that train with us, and two police officers that want this program for their police department that train with us as well, performed over 300 hours of canine peer and staff support at Surfside. So that's going to be my wrap up.
Shawn, thank you so much for sharing. And man, it's just powerful to hear, you know, your personal experience, and yeah, you're right. You know, you're here talking about it, but think of what that might have looked like if you didn't have those programs. And you know, you and I talked a little bit before it started about the long-term effects this is going to have on a lot of personnel, both in Miami and then everybody that did respond. So I don't think the incident is over for you. You know, so yeah, just I truly appreciate how much you shared, and keep up the great work.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do is, you know, we have a pretty good balance online. It's probably 50-50 police, sheriff, and fire.
That's amazing.
So if anybody has a question, you can either put it in the chat and I can repeat it, or if you'd like to raise your hand and speak it, I can let you into the Zoom. But, or if you want to have something to say to Shawn, please engage in the program. And this is for you guys. So this program is for you to learn and to take something away from it. So please don't be shy.
Hey, Shawn, this is Lorenzo. Just wanted to echo everything that Tony had mentioned, your work. And I definitely see a trend as far as canine therapy support. You know, I want to say in the last, 5, 6, 7 years, you probably see 1 or 2, but it's definitely making an impact. And thank you for, taking the lead and training and everything that you're doing. I just want to say thank you. Obviously, my heart goes out to the victims, everybody that responded, because this was definitely a life-changing experience. So I just want to say thank you.
It was, thank you. And the same commissioner that had contacted me that day, Lorenzo, had started a foundation for us to support the team. And the reason that she did that was so that we could start hosting training seminars here in Dade County, and that we can host people from all over the country who want to learn, crisis response canines in organizations. And we'll train them, 2 or 3 day seminar right here in Miami. So hopefully she put 5,000 in it. We're doing a puppy pageant at the end of the month to raise more money for it. And hopefully we'll be doing one here soon in the near future.
Good. But one of the things I'm going to take definitely to the board is to make a monetary donation on behalf of PSPSA to that organization. So I want to make sure I bring that forward, and we get some funds over to you.
Thank you. That's not why I mentioned it. The reason that I mentioned it was just so you know we're going to be doing some training, and I'd love for you guys to come.
Yeah. Yes. And I'll definitely mention that organization during our conference next week.
Great. Thank you so much, guys.
Hey, Tony, you can hear me okay?
You can't hear me, but I can hear you.
Okay,
yeah, thanks,
good.
Scott. Yeah, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. John, I wanted to introduce you to Milo.
Hi, Milo. He's gorgeous.
Our peer support canines for LA County Fire. We have 2, and we're getting 2 more here shortly. So the program's growing. I really appreciate everything you had to say about the canines. It's amazing when I watch Milo actually do his work. You know, I wasn't initially understanding it all through all the training but when you see it in action, you kind of sit back and go, wow, that was pretty kind of impressive what these dogs do, you know, so it's pretty cool. A couple of things in response to Surfside. Some of the things that stuck out when you were talking is that, you know, these things happen. And I can't remember, how long have you been doing peer support?
Since 2015.
Okay. So I am the coordinator for LA County Fire, and I'm starting to see a trend of a lot of departments nationally get actual 40-hour full-time positions in this, which I think is awesome. Something, again, going back to what you said, is that unfortunately, we have to have something happen. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this almost 20 years. And I have always been, feels like pushing rocks uphill with our department to get stuff done and to open stuff up, and awareness, training, resources, all those things that I'm sure a lot of the folks on the call have been doing. That's what we do, right? This wasn't cool so many years ago, but now, and I even hate this line, but our union president uses it, but he says, cuckoo's the new cool. That's Dave. That's the way he comes across. But the process actually is that now people are starting to recognize, right? But it is something when you have an incident like you guys had. We just had a big incident with our department, one of our darkest days in our department, back on June 1st. It's unbelievable when something so significant happens that all of a sudden we are the focal point. What do you need? How can we help you? We want to do all that. I appreciate that in the moment, but here's my heartache with that, is that why do we have to wait? I've been saying that for so long, but why? Why do we have to wait to get change and make things happen until they see the significance of something like that and where peer support engages, whether it's with the canines, the peers. I actually was deployed along with Tony. I think I came in the week after Tony. I saw it firsthand, as I have seen many times on incidents all over the country, how important the peer support aspect is after a tragedy. And here's something to really think about. What if we didn't have peer support? Where would we be, and where would the fallout come from if these incidents happen with no one following up, no one being there and being a resource, you know, to offer help, follow up stuff, long-term care, you know, bridging that gap between mental health and the members, because that's where, you know, the rubber meets the road, is when the peers connect with that person that's struggling. They're always, and we always have that statement, right? No, we're good. I'm good, which clearly you're not. You know, sometimes it's very visual, and we're that bridge to get them to the mental health, right? Yeah. You know, it's something I'm always going to continue to push on, is that why wait until something happens?
Scott, to that point, my first policy draft for this team that I was still functioning under until a week ago was from 2016. This team started in 2016. They made me do 4 different versions of a policy draft. And until last week, my division chiefs handed one of them to me. a skeletal one, by the way, that someone picked apart. I got to put back together correctly to finally be published for approval.
Yeah. Well, here's the positive thing in that is that it is unfortunate that, you know, something has to happen before a big change happens. But in that moment, and the fact that you had something established, right? You had your peer team established. It always falls to that. And thank God for you, everyone else on this call who is, you know, ringing that bell and taking that charge to make things in place and have things prepared before something happens. If we didn't have what we had when our incident happened, I don't know where we'd be, you know?
We know where the fallout would be, where, like you said, where the rubber hits the road.
Yeah. So I think my only comment to everybody on the board is that keep fighting that fight. It's never going to end. We're never going to have enough. We're never going to be in, you know, be able to sit back on our heels and go, it's good. You know, we got a fully functional team that, you know, you can put on a shelf and call out whenever needed. That's not the way it goes. It's always resourcing, staying in the forefront, keeping things very fresh and comfortable. Once you get your department members to know and trust that your peer support team is there for them, that becomes very, very comfortable. So, you know, thank you for everything you're doing, especially with the canines. You know, it's a work in progress, right? Always with
always. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I've gotten used to pushback now. You can push back. It's all right. I'll keep going.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
He's adorable, by the way. I love Milo.
Yeah.
We have a chocolate lab on our team as well.
Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Trigger.
Oh, you say his name, he comes running. He's like, what? Did you tell me? What's the deal? Are you okay?
Yeah. It's funny because when, you know, we're trained to go to the truck when the recall goes off, right?
Yeah.
We train the dogs to go right to their crates when the recall goes off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Shawn.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Joni. I'm from Vallejo Police Department in Northern California. I want to say thank you on behalf of the Peer Support, the Public Safety Peer Support Association and all of our members. Scott, as well, what you guys are doing is absolutely amazing. I, from time to time, bring my dogs from home here at work, and they absolutely love it when I bring them. And it is an eye-opener just to hear the feedback, just the response that the canines are getting from being present in any situation, especially situations that are quite intense as that of the collapse, the condo collapse. So I want to thank you. And a lot of this information is not being lost with me. I do think animals in general are very therapeutic for many people. And it doesn't, like Scott mentioned, it doesn't take an incident just to have them come out. Just for them to be around is probably a definite benefit for the department as well as our peer support members, as yourself. It is a definite pleasure to have you and listen to your story and how you evolved. And Scott, thank you for all you do too.
Thank you so much. You know, and it is like Scott said, it's amazing to watch the dogs. We don't know sometimes, you know, why they're going to the people that they do, but they know 100%, and it's about trusting them. You know, the work that they do is pretty incredible. We're just starting to tap in to what they already know. So keep bringing them to work, Joni. That's amazing. Thanks.
Hey, Shawn. This is Jason Toole. I'm with Santa Barbara County Fire. Work with Tony and Scott as well.
Good morning.
First of all, I just wanted to agree with you totally. I've seen how great the dogs work, and it's incredible to see it. Even not just on an incident. I always love telling the story. One of the days, one of our peer members, who's our dog handler, brought Rhonda, his service dog, to the station, and my engineer, who's as crusty could be, and just the sky's falling constantly. She immediately jumped into his lap and sat there all day, and I've never seen him so happy. So I know, for one, the dogs are an amazing tool.
They break through some barriers. So when I brought Charlie to my station, my crew and I were together for 4 years. And one of my guys in the back, dude, I mean, we worked well together. We had a good professional relationship, but I couldn't go beyond that with this one guy. You know, for some reason, I don't know if it was lack of trust, or I just couldn't have that breakthrough with this guy, you know, for he and I to be that close. Until Charlie came to the station, and Charlie bypassed all of us and went right to him. And we're all standing there looking at this. And by the way, he was the guy that he didn't like dogs. Didn't like dogs. Charlie went right to him. Howard's looking at me. I'm looking at Howard. I can't explain this, you know. So I said, hey, what is it? What's going on over there? And you know what he said? To all of us, he said, you know what? He sees the good in me. And of course I said, well, why the hell is it so hard for the rest of us to see, you know? But that interaction, dude, 2 weeks later, anytime we responded on a call with dogs, of course, they went right to him, and now he and I are joking together, and it broke down a barrier that he and I couldn't break down without the dog.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
They're amazing. Also, the reason I wanted to ask you, or one of the things I wanted to ask you, is how are you doing after all that? And how is your people in your department doing after the event?
We're still having meetings. They set up a support group for everybody that had responded, you know, to the event. A lot of talking together, you know, meeting over lunch or dinner and just talking about stuff. We're still feeling it, you know. And like we said, it's probably going to take a while. We just need to keep reaching out for the resources when we need them, and you know, and keep that in mind. It really isn't over yet. But thank you so much for asking. You know, I'm hanging in there. What I do and what I'm able to do with the dogs is very healing for me. Even training service dogs for some of our firefighters, when they have those breakthroughs, you know, when all of a sudden they realize they're talking about future plans and going on a trip with their dog, and then they start crying, that's amazing to me. So I keep my coping skills as healthy as possible and just keep moving forward. And being, you know, invited to something like this and being able to talk about it is amazing and helpful as well.
Well, thank you again for all that you're doing.
Thank
Echoing
you.
what everyone else has said. Thank you.
Shawn, definitely keep us updated. I would love to hear about your training a little bit more. And I know, where are you located again?
Miami,
Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah, that would be a very eventful trip for me to make, just to watch you train.
Fantastic.
I think that what you do is pretty amazing.
I'll keep in touch with Tony, definitely. And when that comes about, which will hopefully be soon, I'll reach out to him so he can let everyone know.
That sounds great. That sounds great. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, really good comments. Jason, thank you very much for focusing back on Shawn and asking those questions. That's, like I said, we want this to be part of the healing process for everybody. And yeah, so I'll let it kind of one more time ask if anybody has a question or comment, and we'll wait kind of a couple of seconds if anybody jumps in. Man, we couldn't have planned a better first time coffee with your peers, Shawn. This has been awesome. You know, the personal story, what you're sharing, the interaction from Scott and Jason and Joni, that's what and Lorenzo, this is what it's all about. You know, the idea of all this is that us as peers can use each other for strength. And I guarantee you, I've gotten some strength out of listening to your story, and I'm sure everybody here has pulled something away from the strength that you were able to provide, and gives us kind of that little boost to continue to do what we're doing. So
I mean, everything that everybody shared, I identify with, you know, and that's the beautiful thing about this, about being peers. And again, thank you so much for inviting me into this. This is amazing.
Great. All right. Well, that's all. Oh, Scott's got his hand raised.
And I just kind of want to expand upon that. Shawn, I would tell you, I've been on a lot of bigger incidents around the country, and just know that you have everybody here with you. Your family is extended. Yeah, it's something that is really important to know that, you know, we have our own, you know, there's the fire service, there's the police department, sheriffs, all first responders, everything encompassing our peer support association. This is, you know, an extended family. I think it's a special type of family because we all understand, you know, the work that we do, but yet behind the scenes, what we do.
Absolutely.
And it's a very, very important group. So, you know, extending that to you, that know that you have all of us out here, all over the country. And to Tony, I will tell you, I think this is awesome that we got this going, and it's going to grow. It starts with everybody here on this call. I will tell you right now, I already am, you know, ashamed of myself for not letting more of my peers know that this call was going on, but we're so busy and trying to lead up to this conference is like, God, I'm going to walk away from this a little angry at myself that I didn't share more with more of my peers to open this up. So, you know, I think that's all upon us to, you know, continue to grow this, get the word out about this coffee with peers. I think it can grow to something really spectacular. So that's all I got, you guys. Thank you all. Good morning. And just want to know, I've had my second or third cup while we've been sitting here on our.
That's the cup that's the first responder project where I spoke yesterday in Jacksonville. That cup.
Is that right? Yeah.
Thank you so much for extending that to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what we'll do for next is we'll have Lorenzo send everybody coffee cups, so we're all drinking out of the same cup. All right. With that, again, Shawn, keep up the great work. Thank you very much. I look forward to staying connected with you. Definitely. And sharing all the great things that you're doing. Yeah, let's just keep this momentum going. Like Scott said,
right?
Yeah, no, you're on our list now.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next month.
Yeah.
Bye.
Hey, Tony, real quick.
Yeah.
It's Jason. Is this video, I know it's being recorded, is it going to be archived where we can access and share with the peer members that weren't able to attend?
I think so. This is my first time recording, so I might have to have some technical support from somebody, but I've recorded it. I just don't know how to share it. So yes, that's our intention. I think, like Scott said, he's probably going to be upset that he didn't invite more people. I think Sam Dudley would have been a great one to be on this one. So maybe that's something we could share with Sam, or even anybody that doubts the K9 program. So yes, the answer is yes. I just don't know how.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's what Anna will figure it out. We got a good team behind us. Someone will figure it out.
I am such a techie. I just wanted to say thank you. You did a great job.
I'm super stoked on the way this started.
We're so proud of you.
Oh, thanks, Anna.
Very successful for our first one. I think it went incredibly well.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks, Anna.
All right, we'll see you Monday.
Okay, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
All right.
Jason, we'll see you on Monday too.
Yeah, I'll see you there. If I don't talk to you before.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.